Thank you. So, good morning, everyone. Welcome to B-Sides. So I wanted to talk to you about kind of understanding risk and how it relates to each of your own kind of jobs and businesses. But I just thought, just do a quick intro into myself. So I currently work at Hiscox Insurance Company. Joined there in September 2015. I'm their information security leader. I've worked in many different industries across my career, which is kind of where this information is born out from. I'm a currently certified CISP, and if you wish, you can either tweet or follow me at Paul Infosec as well. So, understanding risk. So what does it mean? Why is it important? So in security, we have the CIA triad, so confidentiality, integrity and availability. So that's your systems and your data. So making sure it's safe and secure, making sure that people can't mess with it so that you know that it's valid, it's the correct information, and that actually people can access the information when they need to get to it. So that's what we tend to focus on, that's what we concentrate on. So different organisations have different profiles. So each different industry will have different kind of focuses in that CIA triad. So for example, insurance is a reasonably even split across them all, but confidentiality of the data in insurance seems to be the kind of the primary focus. Banking, again, very even split between them all. If you go back probably 5 years or so, availability wasn't quite so important to them. But now with internet banking, it's becoming much more important. Oil and gas, for them, really, it's confidentiality of their data. They hold very, very kind of monetary worth of intellectual property. If they've got, say, found a new oil field where they can go and drill, it's potentially worth billions of pounds. So they need to make sure they keep that data safe and secure. Education. So they have a very small footprint on the internet. They may just have an informational website, that's probably about it. So for them, it's keeping their systems up, the availability side, so that the teachers can teach the lessons, that the kids can do their learning. So that's really important to them. Gambling industry, so that's very much about availability of their systems. If they lose their systems during the World Cup that's coming up, they're going to be losing millions of pounds a second in bets. People will just go somewhere else. So they need to really focus heavily on keeping their systems up. And pharmaceuticals. So there's quite a good split there between the confidentiality and integrity. So again, you know, they work on, when they're working on new drugs, that's worth a lot of money to them. But also the integrity of that data is really important. If somebody gets in and changes the amount of milligrams in one of their new drugs, they could do, you know, they could potentially kill people. So, you know, to them, making sure that data is accurate is vitally important. I would like to stress though, this is my opinion on the splits. You know, I've worked in all of these industries at different times, and this is from what I've seen. So there's no actual stats to back this up. But what you do get, obviously, within each industry, you will have differences as well. So you'll look at the kind of the company ethos, brand and things like that, and will make a difference. So, you know, I've split out the insurance one and look at Hiscox specifically. So obviously I know quite a bit about them as I work there. For us, we're not a big retail insurer. So we do have an online presence. You can get some small business insurance through us, but most of our stuff is done through brokers and direct with the underwriters. Someone like a Direct Line or Aviva, they've got a much bigger online presence. So for us, the availability is much less of a worry. And because of our brand and the type of insurance we do, the confidentiality of that data is much more important to us than it probably is to other insurers. So we spend a lot more time focusing on those. What those kind of things do, when you look at the CIA triad, you look at the focuses, your industry, your actual business, it starts to give you and hopes to build a picture of your risk appetite. So other things that you need to kind of think about is what would your business deem materially damaging? What systems and what data could you live without for a while, and how long is that? What information is vitally important to you? A lot of companies call it their crown jewels. And then also, what is it you're going to do to protect that information? You use all those factors and put them together, and that starts to build your risk appetite statement for your business. That is your high-level statement of the level of risk that your business is willing to take. So you start to build up a picture. So from your risk appetite, you look at that, you get your high level statement, you build up to your risk tolerances. So these will make a difference. So it can make a difference because of maybe the money that's available to spend. It could be the different systems as well that you're looking at. So for example, you know, we have systems where there's medical data. So that, our risk tolerance for that would be much lower than one of our brochureware websites where it's just kind of pictures and words. So that, when you look at that, you start to build a picture of where you can go to, and again, helps build that focus of what is important and the things you need to look at protecting. So what you're actually trying to do is, once you've got those statements, is actually driving that actual risk down and getting it as close to the risk appetite and within those risk tolerances that you've set as a business. And what you're trying to manage effectively is that residual risk, the difference between the two. There are things that can happen, you know, if you can't get that actual risk down anywhere near your risk appetite, then the chances are your risk appetite is wrong and you need to go back and revisit it and kind of not literally start again, but you need to work through it and work out whether it's resources, money, or just there's not the appetite to do it. The other thing, once you've set that risk appetite and your risk tolerances, it's an ongoing process. This isn't just a one shot. You can't just do it once and leave it. You need to monitor what else is going on. So business decisions that are being made every day can affect the different, you know, where your kind of risk profile is, and means you might need to change your tolerances or your risk appetite. So if you have a change in markets, it's quite extreme, but you know, you start to try and do business in China, the Chinese government are going to be very interested in your company. New business areas. So, you know, for example, in insurance, if we started to insure somebody that was maybe seen as morally wrong, you know, like animal testing companies or something like that, could again change our risk profile. Change in leadership. You get a change at board level, could completely change your risk appetite because they've come in, they've got a different idea about what they want to do. And literally, if the board decide they want to change the risk appetite. Also moving into new technologies, so certainly things like cloud and DevOps are certainly changing the risk appetite in companies now. By pushing that data out into the cloud, by with all the DevOps, the kind of the agile, the speed of processes, you've got to make sure that you're ready for it and you can keep everything joined up. The supply chain risks that come with it, most companies will deal with lots and lots of different third parties. They're always affecting your risk appetite because of decisions they make, taking on new third parties. So it's all those things you need to monitor within your own business to see whether you need to change what you're doing. And then you've got the external factors as well, new vulnerabilities that come along. So we had Spectrum meltdown not too long ago, which completely changed the kind of risk profile that was out there of the different kind of vulnerabilities we could get hit by. Political changes, so with Brexit coming up, Donald Trump making these wonderful decisions that he keeps making out in the US. But also the poisoning with Russia recently, it changes the whole aspect of what's going on in the world, and we need to be mindful of those changes, that they could be changing the risk profile. Some of our companies could become more of a target. Regulatory changes. Always interesting. So I'm sure everybody in this room has had the four-letter word of GDPR recently, and that's definitely made changes to people's attitudes to risk and attitudes to security. And also moving forward, again, similar to cloud and DevOps, all the new technology that's coming on, AI and all the other things like that we're coming on, we've got to monitor those and look at what risks will be coming from those as well. So, how as security people can we deal with this? How do we make this effective? So really, my kind of big takeaways here, it's about educating the board. They've got to live and breathe this and understand it. So they need to understand what a risk appetite is, what it really means, and the risk appetite they're leaning towards, they've got to understand that as well. They need to accept responsibility for that risk appetite, because it's that top-down approach that's going to come. But like I've just been mentioning, they need to be regularly discussing it. It needs to come up at the board meetings because they need to be reviewing it. They need to make sure they're still comfortable with the decisions they've made. They need to support the risk appetite. They need to support the business with resources, with funding, and that top-down approach. You know, we can't do it without their support. It's not going to work. It will fail. Probably one of the most important things out of those, they need to be consistent. You need to make sure the board are understanding it all in the same way, to the same level, and that when they're talking to other people about it, they're giving them the same messages about how important it is. So it needs to be led all the way from the top down. Yeah, we can't do it without them. So finally, and probably the most important part of this whole presentation, is you need to educate your board. You need to get them bought in. So that's it for my presentation. So thank you very much for your time and listening, and I'm happy to take any questions.